If AMR doesn't speak up about this opportunity in our county, there is no one else. For AMR, I believe, is the voice of the rocks. And I've had this saying, it's not about the trees, but it's what's underneath the trees. So that means Josephine County is the brokest, richest county in the United States, I believe, of untapped in minerals sitting here available. That was proven through that mystery metal investigation by our federal government in 1927, and the rocks haven't changed.
Our specialty at American Mineral Research when it comes to critical minerals has been to document and map the occurrences of the critical mineral tellurium here in Josephine County in Southwest Oregon. We have an amazing opportunity to be a supplier from Josephine County, a supplier to the green energy technology industry. On the Department of Interior list of critical minerals, tellurium is the most rare element on that list. And our preliminary research here in Josephine County, in fact, very close to where I'm standing right now, says we have high enough levels of tellurium that we can be a tellurium supplier to our country and to the world right from here in Southwest Oregon. And tellurium makes high efficiency thin film solar panels. So tellurium is a green energy semiconductor material that is used to manufacture solar panels. We can be a leader in the green energy materials and green energy technology manufacturing sector right from here in Southwest Oregon. But we're going to be hamstrung if these federal proposals go through. Between Jackson County and Josephine County, we're facing 4 of them, and all 4 of them would have a major impact on Josephine County. Just between Josephine County and our neighbor Jackson County, hundreds of thousands of acres would be locked up. We'll never know what the billions of dollars, perhaps even trillions of critical minerals and precious metals that we have here in these areas. So right now we're driving up a mountain road in Josephine County, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about Josephine County's history and some very challenging circumstances that we're being faced with right now. We're in Southwest Oregon, and it's an extremely mineral-rich area, but we like to say it's the best kept secret in North America as far as our mineral opportunities. And not too many people know about it, but this whole area, Grants Pass in Josephine County, was built on the mining industry in the late 1800s, early 1900s. 2/3 of Josephine County is federally managed properties, so what happens on those lands makes a massive local economic impact to our communities here in Josephine County and the city of Grants Pass. Back in the 1920s, we had this major federal investigation, the conclusion of which our lands are misclassified. They should really be classified as mineral lands. Moving forward to the 1930s, Democratic Governor Charles Martin knew about this federal investigation, knew about the mineral riches we had here in Grants Pass in Josephine County, and he created the State Department of Geology right here. He thought that the mineral riches we had here in Southwest Oregon could get the entire state of Oregon out of the Great Depression at the time. So this was the 1930s, we're facing the Great Depression, and he actually even started a vocational school for prospectors to help identify all of these mineral riches that we had here in Southwest Oregon and Josephine County. We have literally hundreds of historic mines in this area. And just in this area we're sitting right now here in Josephine County, there's about 10 historic mines right here that have both precious metals and critical minerals like tellurium that we talked about. And all of these mines haven't been touched since World War II. So what we have is an incredible amount of small business opportunities throughout Josephine County in southwest Oregon. But then we headed into World War II, and Federal Order L208 shut down all non-critical mining efforts in Josephine County. And almost all of these very rich mineral properties that we have in this region were shut down at the time, and they haven't really been touched ever since. And while developing mineral properties, the process of developing mineral properties is very different than it was 100 years ago. The rocks don't change, and we still have incredible mineral opportunity here in Josephine County. But after World War II, we became a timber economy. Timber is what funded many of our jobs and also our local government here in Josephine County, because there was a major federal timber revenue sharing agreement that was done in the 1930s. And so our public safety and law enforcement here in Josephine County was funded through timber receipts as well for many, many years. So what that resulted in is now Josephine County has a way to pay for the basic services that we need to provide, like the law enforcement and justice systems. Over the years, the vast majority of the timber funding that Josephine County has received has been used to support our local public safety and law enforcement systems. And so as a result, the timber harvesting not only provided a major economic driver from the perspective of those that worked in the industry, but also provided a big boost to our local governments. And that's only fair, because if 2/3 of your land in Josephine County is federally managed lands, you need to make the best and highest use of that land. So moving forward into the 1980s and 1990s, a group of special interest environmental groups started shutting down and locking up our federal lands here in Josephine County. Moving into the 1990s, our timber economy was shut down, and a series of federal acts started to be approved to replace the revenues that our local government used to use to support law enforcement and public safety in Josephine County. And moving the clock forward to 2012, even those federal acts that replaced the lost timber receipts that were taken away from us here in Josephine County, that was cut back too. And as a result, major cutbacks in Josephine County's law enforcement and justice systems in 2012. So 2012, we had mass layoffs in the Josephine County Sheriff's Office, mass layoffs throughout the justice system in Josephine County. And from 2012 to 2017 in Josephine County, we had less law enforcement services in the unincorporated parts of Josephine County than many third world countries. That's right, we had less law enforcement services in rural Josephine County than many third world countries as a result of what is being done on our federal lands. It is very, very hard to get a local funding measure approved for law enforcement and justice services in Josephine County when everybody's ticked off at the federal government for locking up our vast resources we have here in Southwest Oregon. But turning forward to 2012, we started facing a variety, and over the past 30 years, we faced a variety of both mineral withdrawal efforts and wildland expansion efforts, which basically means we can't go in and even test what sort of minerals we have in this area. We can't even go in and explore these areas. And so in 2012, there was a major effort to lock up some lands, to make a major wildland expansion in the Rogue River area. And this happened to be in the area where we have one of our oldest mining districts. As this bill was moving through the Federal House Committee on Natural Resources, that committee was told that there are no roads or mines in the area, and in fact it was quite the opposite. So when American Mineral Research showed the House Committee on Natural Resources the fact that this was one of our oldest mining districts, and we have both critical minerals and precious metals in these areas and lots of historic mines, as we showed the actual truth of what these areas have to offer, The high-ranking member within the House Committee on Natural Resources was able to share that information and stopped it at the time. But then moving forward to 2019, that same area was included in a wildland expansion effort and put on the back of a major national parks bill and taken away from us without any input here at the local level. And so now moving forward to 2021, we're facing no less than 3 mineral withdrawal and wildland expansion proposals here in Josephine County, and then another one right over the border in Jackson County, right over the border of Jackson and Josephine counties. And all of these would result in literally hundreds of thousands of acres being locked up here in Southwest Oregon, with most of the land, a concentration of those lands being locked up here in Josephine County.
Okay, now this is the mesothermal quartz vein that we have. You can see the veinlets going through here, which is the pyrite, which is iron and sulfide. Well, also you can see the very dark little veinlets in here. Those are our gold tellurides we have. The old timers left it behind for us, we are very fortunate. And with modern technology, we are able to find tremendous ore reserves with our core drilling machine now. And so far, we are finding.
The mineral withdrawal proposal that we're facing here in Josephine County is called the Southwestern Oregon Watershed and Salmon Protection Act. Over 100,000 acres would be taken away from Josephine County and Curry counties, right where we sit right now. Then we're facing the River Democracy Act of 2021. Over 3 million acres throughout Oregon would be locked up and not able to be used for any productive purpose. And the vast concentration of the lands that would be locked up under the 2021 River Democracy Act would be right here in Josephine County in Southwest Oregon. We're also facing the Oregon Recreation Enhancement Act, which would create yet more wildlands in Josephine County. As we go through these areas and we take some pictures in these areas, there's very little water. Even in the springtime, there's very little water flowing through these areas. And basically this is all about locking up even more of our federal lands so that we can't hardly do anything productive with them. And as mentioned, 2/3 of Josephine County is federally managed lands, and so what happens on these lands has just a massive economic impact on the local community. And our productivity on these federal lands, that's partly how we funded our law enforcement in Josephine County for many years prior to 2012. So this Southwestern Oregon Watershed and Salmon Protection Act As we drive through these areas, we don't see hardly any water, even in springtime when there should be flowing water. And so we'll see up ahead, we'll see that most of the creeks are dry even in springtime. And so it's not about protecting the water. This is really about locking up our lands. And that just has a devastating impact on Josephine County and the communities in Josephine County when our federal lands are just locked up and can't be touched. Not only that, but the lack of forest management, the lack of management in these areas. Once these lands are locked up, many of the roads end up being decommissioned, and there's really a lack of forest management in these areas too. Once they go into a wilderness expansion or a mineral withdrawal, there's a lot less activity. There's a lot less activity that can be done. And so our forests don't get managed, which leads to even higher risks of catastrophic wildfires. We're even going to show some pictures here of some catastrophic wildfires. And the last wildfire that went through this withdrawal area, even though it was close to 20 years ago, you can still see the remnants of that major wildfire that went through this area. And so it hurts us economically. It doesn't do any good to protect the water or the salmon because there hardly is any in these areas. It makes us more prone to catastrophic wildfire risk. And so these proposals are just bad all around and very harmful all around. They're devastating to areas like Josephine County and Southwest Oregon that keep being subject to these proposals time and time again.
If you want to have a green forest, it needs to be managed. If you want a black forest, don't manage it. Turn it into a wild and scenic river, turn it into a wilderness designation.
We've just entered into the eastern side of the proposed mineral withdrawal area in southern Josephine County. And this is a mineral withdrawal proposal that affects well over 100,000 acres between Josephine and Curry counties. And so we're on the eastern side right now, and as we drive through this proposed mineral withdrawal area, the title of the bill for this mineral withdrawal, which essentially means a ban on any sort of mineral development activity within these areas, the title of the bill proposed by Congressman DeFazio is Southwestern Oregon Watershed and Salmon Protection Act. Now that's a very misleading title alone, because as we drive through these areas, it's spring of 2021, and we drive through and we hardly see any flowing water, even in the springtime, when there should be lots of flowing water if there was salmon and water to actually protect in these areas. You see right behind me there's a creek. It looks like at one point maybe it was a fairly prominent creek, but all there are is rocks, and there's a trickle of water in this creek. And again, it's springtime, so there should be more than just a trickle of water. So the whole title of the bill, the whole premise of the bill, Watershed and Salmon Protection Act, well, there is no water and salmon to protect in these areas, even in the springtime when the water should be flowing. But that's kind of a moot point, because there are already plenty and more than sufficient environmental protections that are already in place to protect the watersheds and the waterways in this area that actually do have flowing water.
I worked for the U.S. Forest Service for about 42 years in a variety of national forests. I finished up my career in Southwest Oregon in the district in which we're sitting right now. Part of my duties over those years was as a watershed protection specialist, which I did for about 13 years. And areas like this that we're sitting in a riparian area. These were part of my duties, to make sure that they were appropriately cared for. So this area of approximately 150 feet on one side of the stream and 150 feet on the other side of the stream already is considered protected. It sure doesn't look like a stream that should have protection measures in addition to the 150 feet on both sides. This proposed mineral withdrawal is labeling this area as needing watershed and salmon protection. That's absurd. The Forest Service has already adequate protection for those species in place. Nothing needs to be added on.